Hey, nobody's out there, right? Nobody should watch this. I'm just sharing. I'm fascinated with this idea, but uh, basically, nobody should listen to this. But basically, I learned about this term called abstract thought and concrete thought. Abstract thought is basically just the ability to juggle things that are not real, hold things that are imagined, that you're not dealing with your senses, and then compare those and synthesize results. So basically doing math, like 4 plus 1, put them together, and you got 5. Or just, we got some celery, and we got some peanut butter. What could we make with that? We could make those, so those are not things that are confronted in me. Those are imagined things, and I'm trying to think about what could I do with those. So that's, when you're doing that, you're basically, it's relying on your, I'm not going to be able to explain this right because I don't really have a good working memory. People very often are relying on working memory, which is like how many things can you juggle in your mind with it before forgetting. So like remembering a phone number is basically working memory. I don't have a good working memory, so I tend to be sort of like not good at abstract thought because I'm going to forget what I was talking about. And I'm not my working memory is below average. Normally I can remember about 5 numbers. That's the low end of average working memory. Really good people are good at abstract thought who can do math really good, or just do conceptual thinking, basically imagining and brainstorming, maybe even like having like a really good conversation. You're basically able to, like, if you're having a conversation, you're remembering a lot more little entities of abstract thought and then summoning them up and being like, oh, like, what about this? Putting those things together. I don't have really good working memory. Also, capacity for abstract thought also relies on long-term memory. Long-term memory is just like something you're confronted with. You summon up something that you remembered a long time ago. So when I'm thinking about, like, how does celery blend with peanut butter, there's a bunch of shit that I learned about long time. Like when I was in elementary school, there was some little recipe that I saw that had those. My brain is like not able to fetch those. So like even my long-term memory isn't really great. That's like if somebody's playing Jeopardy, if they say like name 5 presidents that's names start with J, that's not really working memory. That's kind of like you heard some shit over the course of your life, maybe all the way back to middle school. How quickly can your brain like fetch examples of that? So that's like long-term memory. And so basically like abstract thought kind of relies on both of those. It relies on like working memory. You're going to be better at abstract thought if you can juggle more shit without forgetting. And so I'm not really great at that. I don't have a good working memory by default. And also like long-term memory, it's just like when something comes to mind, it's like, oh, here's something that would be good for that situation right now. And then your brain says, oh, yeah, that thing relates to that. Like when you're playing Jeopardy, like, great writers whose name starts with O. You've heard those in your life. Like there's things in your brain, and your brain's like, like, let me think about it. Your brain is kind of fetching in that, like, night sky of, like, distant stars. And then it goes, oh, yeah, can I think of one? Like, my mom's better at that. My mom's better at, like, drawing from like your whole lifetime of like what comes to writer that starts with O, great writer that starts with O. Anyways, it's just a lot. Anyway, what's my point? It's basically I'm basically realizing that I'm really not that smart, and so this, if somebody's working memory and long-term memory are not really that great, they're not necessarily going to be the best at abstract thought, and they're going to want to they're going to thrive more and want to do more activities that relate with like, give me like something to work with. Give me like sights and sounds that I have in front of me. Like, let me count on my fingers and stuff like that. So if you don't have a good working memory and you don't have a good long-term memory, or if you're kind of lazy and you don't really want to do a lot of thinking, you're going to want to deal more with like real stuff you're confronted with, sights and sounds to relate with one another rather than abstractions that you have to juggle in your brain. So like counting on your fingers, you might want to do stuff like that. I mean, it's not one or the other. People aren't like absolutely concrete thinking, absolutely abstract thinking, but like it's good to kind of know like your propensity to that versus like other people, right? Yeah. So basically, like a lot. Nobody cares, but just for record, in a lot of my adult life, I fancied that I was better at abstract thought than I actually am. But if you just listen to me, or if you just look at my lifestyle, a lot of it is like, let me deal with some like real shit that I don't have to like remember. And anyway, what's the point? Interesting thing. Concrete. Do you tend to prefer activities that rely on concrete thinking, which is basically like actual sights and sounds, or do you tend to like to juggle a lot of imagined stuff? And so difference between propensity towards concrete thinking versus abstract thinking can kind of be summed up as like, if you want to know which one you prefer, do you like to deal with actual sights and sounds that are immediately confronting your senses, or do you prefer to deal with imagined entities and sometimes larger amounts of imagined entities, and then like synthesizing those in your brain and imagining various results that could happen if you put those together that you're not even really confronted with visual references, right? Yeah. So basically, like, I've never really thought about that. I never really thought about like what that's really built upon. It's built upon working memory, long-term memory. What else? If somebody's really good at abstract thought, you could say that it's their competitiveness, or just how good they are at that, is going to be largely determined by the size of their working memory on average, and then the strength of their long-term memory. Is there anything else that's going to be like determining factors and high levels of abstract thought performance in terms of your brain? Cognitive flexibility. This is the ability to switch back and forth between ideas, concepts, or tasks and adapt to new changing rules. Abstract thinking, this allows you to explore different perspectives, consider different alternative solutions, and break free from rigid thought patterns. So like rigid thought patterns. Inhibitory control. This ability to suppress irrelevant information or dominant but incorrect responses. When tracking complex abstract problems, there can be a tempting but ultimately wrong paths. Strong inhibitory control helps you filter out distractions, resist impulsive judgments, and stay focused on the most promising. So basically, like not giving into your feelings. Pattern recognition and formation. Abstract thinking often involves identifying underlying patterns, relationships, and structures within conflict. Fluid intelligence. This refers to the capacity to reason and solve novel problems independent of prior knowledge. Well, long-term memory provides the building blocks, and fluid intelligence is the engine that drives the manipulation and synthesis of these blocks in new abstract ways. It involves skills like inductive and deductive reasoning. Anyway, I guess there's a lot of other things that help abstract thought. So you could say like a stupid person, even though people are not absolutely stupid, you could say that somebody who's not the smartest person in the world, they should watch out for weaknesses in working memory, weaknesses in long-term memory, and then like temptation for rigid thought. They should basically like try to remind themselves possibly that things are not binary, and be okay with like not having absolute answers. And also resisting impulse control, not just kind of going with their feelings. These are kind of like things to try to watch out for and prevent against if you're not the smartest person in the world, right? I'm speaking for myself. Yeah, so basically I'm not the smartest person in the world, and so I have to watch out for temptation to just do what feels good. Be flexible, switch between different ideas, and adapt to new things without like rigid thought patterns. And also like not just doing the same thing that you've done over and over. There's kind of like I don't have the best brain in the world. I have kind of like a lazy brain, I'm gonna want to like just do the same, execute the same pattern that I do throughout the day, and that's not a good brain is gonna be like, hey, let's deal with this completely new thing. Can you say that? Yeah, basically, like you could say a bad brain or a brain that's kind of lazy is going to want to kind of execute the same pattern over and over, whereas a brain that's more up for challenge for whatever reason, either just being fitter or more malleable because of youth, is going to be more willing to confront new problems rather than executing the same pattern, right? So basically, like I have to, as somebody with a bad brain, and not necessarily like you could get a job where you can just do the same thing fucking over and over. But if I should know that as somebody, I'll speak for myself, as somebody with a bad brain and kind of an older brain, I should just be careful of a reluctance to engage with new problems, and a tendency to want to keep doing the same shit over and over. And then I shouldn't put myself in a lot of contexts where good working memory is a necessity to do the job, because I never really had like a great working memory. What else? Long-term memory, I'm not really great at Jeopardy. The ability to play Jeopardy is kind of a determinant of long-term memory. Also, what else? I should be careful about impulse control. And also, like, but is there data to substantiate that if you have like not the best brain in the world, either because of just having a lazy brain or just not having the hardware in your brain to do like a lot of abstract thought, or just having an older brain, or a combination of those, doing some sort of activity that exercises abstract thought can kind of like make your brain more like plastic, like less rigid, less tendency towards lack of impulse control. Like basically, like exercising abstract thought is kind of like good, if you do that during the day, you might have like more impulse control, and you might have like more neuroplasticity and more willingness to like do new stuff. Is there data to substantiate that? Yeah. What's the point? I've noticed that basically nobody cares, but just for record, I've noticed in my life that like forcing myself to do some sort of like abstract thinking thing, it makes me less. It gives me more impulse control, and it makes me less like rigid, and so I like kind of like fighting against that. So basically, whether you're a young person or you're an old person, there can be a lot of benefit for like fighting against your weaknesses, and maybe like as an older person, there can be increasingly more benefit to like fighting against your weaknesses than a young person who might benefit more from like extreme specialization, right? So yeah. Yes, absolutely. So which point? I don't know. I'm basically telling myself that. I'm saying like, I'm gonna do, as an older person, I think I want to just do some lifestyle things, which basically just amount to like doing mental and physical stuff that kind of like fights weaknesses, just to kind of have, just to function, and just to prevent against like calcification of just doing the same thing over and over, not doing anything new, just being lazy and stupid. And anyway, what's the point? I think that's kind of basically, I was thinking 2 weeks ago, like I just want to do 3D modeling all day, and I'm like, maybe that would have been good when you were 20, but as an older person, it seems like and I did do that a lot when I was in my 20s, but maybe like just fending off weaknesses in the interest of just being functional and not like a shut-in, rigid, closed-off, ignorant person set in their ways and just humming around, just repeatedly doing some same thing every day that's kind of nuts as your brain basically calcifies and deteriorates. I don't know, that's kind of my thinking. Alright, so how can we do that? Just, I think like a variety of different activities with and just basically like helping my dad and just staying alive. Staying alive. Staying alive. Ha, 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 ha. Staying alive. Can you give me the lyrics of the Bee Gees song, Staying Alive? Whether you're a brother or you're a mother, you're staying alive, staying alive. Feel the city breaking, everybody shaking, and we're staying alive, staying alive. So whether you're a brother or whether you're a mother, just like, we're just, they kind of said like, whoever you are, to some degree, you're kind of just staying alive, right? We're all just staying alive, and that's good, right? Could you please answer yes or no to my previous question? No. No, I don't want the lyrics. I want to know that. I want to know if like a possible interpretation of Bee Gees Staying Alive was just like, you know, we're all just kind of like staying alive to some degree. That's a possible interpretation of people's daily doings, right? So that's a legitimate lifestyle if kind of your bases are covered. Is it okay if I just kind of like stay alive, but just you know, try to stay fit, try to stay mentally fit? Is that cool? Oh, cool. All right. All right. That's what I want to hear. All right. So that's all right. That's all right. All right. Back.